Soundstripe. Welcome to South End Supporters Presents Red vs. Blue, your weekly Premier League series. Eric Cole alongside the Monday morning center back, Dave Wyckoff. And Dave, we just wrapped up the first opening week of the English Premier League this season, and I thought it was a pretty exciting weekend overall. I thought a lot of good games, a lot of good, interesting storylines coming out. I think you're always going to have interesting storylines while the transfer window is still open and all that type of stuff. But before we get into everything, how are we doing today?
Yeah, if I was you, I would think it was a very exciting weekend too, because I don't think you missed a pick other than not picking draws, and It seemed like I was pretty standard. I think I was about 30%, including my pick for the most exciting game with Villa and Newcastle being the biggest flop of the weekend. So no, I'm excited to talk about a little bit of the cool stuff that happened week one. It's very, very exciting. Some surprises, some not so surprising things that happened. So I can't wait to get into it and then talk about the weekends, which starts tomorrow with Chelsea and West Ham. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I think that's why I love this league so much, though, is like you can say some outlandish like picks and it come true. Like you could just like it really is one of those leagues where any given day, some team, 20. How many times last year did the team in 20th upset, a team in the top four? It's just, it's why it's so great. And this year especially, I feel like it's really going to be a super competitive, not only for the title, but for European spots, for relegation. I think there's going to be a good stream of competition all along the table, unlike last year where it was kind of almost a runaway and then everybody's kind of going for that fourth or fifth spot. But we'll get into just kind of what stood out to you over this past weekend. What was something that you took away from the past weekend?
Well, I think the biggest, the best moment, and I'm not going to even say it was surprising, but I think it was really appropriate that the season opened at Anfield with sort of just an immaculate pregame tribute to Diogo Jota and his brother. It was really cool. We posted the one picture with the DJ20 tifo from the fans behind the players. I thought that was that's like an iconic picture. I mean, you don't want it to be iconic in that way with somebody passing away, but Anfield, and then the game itself, like Anfield was in great voice, like always, and that game, I kind of felt like I knew how that game was going to play out. I didn't expect Liverpool to go up. I expected them to be emotionally kind of worn out. And then Bournemouth just battling back like that. And, and it was appropriate that Liverpool salvaged a win on an emotional day from an unlikely winner from Chiesa, who has had a real tough time with them. So I mean, it was a great way to start the first weekend. So good on the Anfield crowd, because that was an awesome, and I can't imagine being in person for that environment.
Oh yeah, and I mean, as much as I also want to give credit to the Wolves atmosphere as well. Yeah, you kind of forget, that's where they picked him up from, was Wolverhampton, and I think he wore 18. So at the 18th minute, a nice standing ovation. Same with Liverpool at the 20th minute. They gave him a nice ovation. Yeah, you're right. It's one of those deals where you wish that atmosphere was under better circumstances, but you got to give credit to that sort of atmosphere. You always hear about that, as Anfield is one of the toughest places to go and play just for their atmosphere and the things that they bring, let alone if they're playing for something like that. The passion that they bring to the stadium is always impressive, no matter how you feel about Liverpool, and especially on this show. But yeah, I thought it was like you said, I think the writing was always going to be on the wall. Like you said, an unlikely source. I think they said that was Chiesa's only goal that he scored for Liverpool, and he was kind of like, really hasn't kicked on since he's came over to the Premier League. And then of course Salah just doing Salah things. So that game was entertaining.
And Ekitike with a great debut and a goal, and it was.
He looks.
It's trouble for the rest of the league. I tell you that much because they did not play well overall. I still think the defense is really shaky at the back, and the wingbacks before the 60th minute when they subbed out the two wingbacks, I was thinking that they were just kind of going to overrun Bournemouth, and then they took Frimpong and I can't remember the left back's game. Although he struggled with Semenyo all game, but when they took them out and they put Robertson in, who, God, he's so terrible. He's so bad. I just don't understand why he's still there. But that was a turning point in the game. And I think it was really great to see that they battled through that adversity. But that's going to be a problem if they can't maintain leads for them because their center backs are not – well, they're still good players. Don't get me wrong. Van Dijk's a good player. Kanate's a good player. But they were – kind of exposed, and Gravenberch being back will make a big difference too because he's essentially a fifth defender playing in that sixth spot. So might be a warning shot for the rest of the league, but also might be a warning shot to Liverpool that hey, you need to kind of address all of a sudden you lack some depth. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and especially today, I think I saw a report that Frimpong picked up a hamstring injury. In training,
I saw that
he's
too.
He's going to be out a little bit. So
all the more reason for them to get Mark Gahey and get him signed before the window closes.
Yeah, I know. That's the team I think is going to be to watch, which is crazy because they've already had such a big transfer window as it is. Liverpool finishing out this transfer window just with the rumors and everything else that you're seeing kind of going along. But, it's one of those deals, too, where do you chalk it up a lot to just being the first game of the season? I look at, the Arsenal. I thought Arsenal did not look super overly impressive. I know they still came out with the 3 points and stuff, but that was a team those are the two teams that you have to figure are going to be frontlining the title chase this year, and both kind of came out a little flat. Like we kind of highlighted in the last episode, those top teams have such a brutal, preseason tours and all that type of stuff that it is hard to get into place. But you're right, as far as Liverpool goes, that's something that if they do want to have such a comfortable lead with the title race this year, I think that's the area that they've got to improve on the most. So who was your let's go into who was your slayer of the weekend as we kind of connect this to the red and blue stuff? Who was something or a team or whatever that you kind of really emphasize had a great weekend?
So I've got multiple slayers of the week, and the Halo lingo, I love it. We're gonna filter these in more and more. But if you're not familiar with Halo, one part of the inspiration for Red versus Blue, Slayer was one of the multiplayer games where the goal of the game was to just have as many. It was like a race to 50 kills. So the team that got 50 kills or the player that got 50 kills was the one that won. So our slayers of the week, at least my slayers of the week, Chris Wood from Forest, Richarlison from Spurs, Haaland from City, and Semenyo from Bournemouth, all with double kills, 2 goals. Stick with it. It's a deep cut. Yeah. And then an honorable mention, Taji Reinders from City with a goal and an assist. And then
he looked a problem.
Raya from Arsenal with a clean sheet with a 7 save clean sheet. So, how about you? Any slayers of the week that I didn't already mention?
Yeah, the one that stood out to me, and he's somebody that I just dislike anyway. I think he's just one of those personalities that hasn't done enough, but carries himself as if he's won everything, and he's got the cockiest sort of attitude as Richarlison from Tottenham. But both his goals in that brace were fantastic. Side volley and then that overhead side volley, whatever you want to call it, goals. Really good, and I think it made Tottenham look really good over the weekend. I think Tottenham's just that club that they always seem to have the talent. They just never, they pull Tottenham sort of moves and, always kind of almost shoot themselves in the foot, it feels like. But, yeah, those were up there for me as well. I mean, you come out opening weekend with a brace, especially, man, Chris Wood, he just continues to score for Forest. He's just been, on a tear, and so it's you got to love that as a Forest fan. You lose Elanga, and you're hoping that he still can be that guy who finds the net even without missing a wing distribution and still gets on the score sheet and then follows it up with a brace. Super impressive. Any like surprises, I guess you could say, for any of the results? I mean, pretty straightforward. I felt like a lot of any games that I feel like we were torn on were ended up in draws, and then any games you kind of felt like more the favorite. I know Sunderland over West Ham, but we kind of highlighted Sunderland as maybe a team that can come in and make that early season run. Leeds kind of pulls one out with a, was it a handball? Was it not a handball against Everton sort of deal? But again, you're on Ellen Road. We said that was going to be a tough matchup. But, I mean, I didn't feel like there was anything too surprising over the weekend. I just thought it was a lot of entertaining games and, a lot of fire from a lot of teams trying to prove something early on.
Yeah. We definitely didn't call the Sunderland beatdown over West Ham. That's really got to be concerning for West Ham to get it handed to them like that. God, I could not have been more wrong with Wolves. 4-0.
But it was
4-0 sitting against Wolves.
To be
4 shots and 4 goals. Yeah.
To your credit, though, that those first 20 minutes, I was like, hey, he may be onto something here. Because for a while, Wolves was kind of, holding their own pretty well. And then once City kind of got things rolling and once that first goal went in, it kind of like snowballed effect. But I was almost sitting there going like, wow, he called a shot and it might actually have worked out for him. That was pretty wild.
Yeah. It was there. There were some other moments, and we'll get into the Chelsea Palace match here in a minute, and the Man U and Arsenal game. But Eze getting a standing ovation from the Palace fans at Stamford Bridge when he got subbed off. And as we now know, he's not signed with Spurs. He's signed with Arsenal as of last night. So that was kind of an interesting moment. I understand that this is the business, but Palace just continuously lose these high profile players. You go back to when Zaha left and went to Saudi, and now he's in MLS, and then losing Elise last year and now losing Eze. Like, it's so hard. It's got to be so hard to be a middle table fan. And London and Palace is a big club. Don't get me wrong; they're a big club, but they're just not, the massive juggernaut behemoths that the Liverpools and the Chelseas and the cities of the world are. They just don't retain these big time players.
How tough would that be to be like one of those fans? It was like Southampton a couple of years ago when they had like Luke Shaw, they had Sane. Who else did they have that was like such a big name? But like to be almost one of those like feeder type clubs.
Van Dijk.
Van Dijk. You have these like, and especially for Palace coming off a big, finally winning a trophy and all that type of stuff, and then to, just lose your stars like that. It's got to be so frustrating year after year to be a supporter of that club and think like, what do we have to do to continue to retain these guys and actually try to build a contender sort of club.
Yeah, I don't know what else you can do. I mean, it's just, that's the life of a mid-table club. I guess they're, they try to finish, near the top 6 and get into Europe and, win the domestic, compete for the domestic trophies. That's got to be frustrating. It's about as frustrating as being like a Cardinal fan that they won't go out and sign big name, free agents and compete for big money. That's kind of what these other clubs deal with. So,
so
I can't be too. I mean, Palace has taken it on the chin the last couple of weeks between getting squeezed out of Europa and not losing Eze.
Yeah, no kidding, man. But so Palace did take on your beloved Chelsea Blues. How did you feel about your guys' game, your performance? Did it build your confidence going into the year? Palace, we talked about it before, always just seems to give you guys a game. And so are you happy with the result? How did you feel about your game?
Yeah, you left 3 points on the table. That's what happened, and you had a chance at the end inside the 6 that has to go in. That was I can't remember who that was off the bench that missed that, but it was pretty comical. And you try to say, oh, it's just the first week of the season, but man, you had so much possession and could not put one in the back of the net. Cole Palmer was largely a non-factor, and that's kind of the, unfortunately, was the story of Chelsea last year. They started hot and Palmer started hot, and then Palmer went through a really dry spell for a long time, and they fell out of the race and almost fell all the way out of Europe. And then when he started to play well again, they started to play well. So 72% possession and no goals. I mean, we play the XG game, but we know how much we hate that. It was a lot more of the same, unfortunately, that we saw last year. A lot of indirect possession and not enough players taking responsibility to go and take their chances. I don't know. And the new, Esteval came in, looked a little bit kind of not confident, I guess. I don't know. It was strange. He's so fast, and he didn't really challenge any defenders with his pace. Liam Delap, he's probably going to score 15 goals, but he's not a 25-goal guy. João Pedro, kind of underwhelming. So overall, a very underwhelming performance, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it was one where watching it just wasn't overly, I would say, emphatic from either team. It was kind of a boring, and then like you said, the signings that you were hoping to like really see something out of, I don't feel like it just kind of went flat. And then Palmer with his struggles, it's I think it'll turn itself around.
I also thought it was I also, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We got a little bit of a lag action here. I thought it was a little interesting that it wasn't all the new signings that got a start. They started Jamie Gittins on that left side instead of Esteval, or instead of putting João Pedro out there. I thought that was really an interesting move, and Gittins looked overwhelmed too. So kind of a boring, underwhelming game. So hopefully they get it figured out. They're gonna have to do it with a pretty porous defense, especially in the center.
Yeah, but I think you got a good game to bounce, or a good opponent to try and bounce yourself back at. Up against West Ham.
But your brother, I guarantee you, your brother calls for a loss this game.
Yes.
He will say that this is the classic Chelsea letdown game in a derby, and lose like 1-0 to West Ham.
Yeah, I can't wait for you guys to be up like 2-0 and seeing his text saying, "Yeah, but," like he's just the most like. Even if the whistle blows and you guys are up 4-0, he'll still, but Palmer should have had 3, and this team still is like, it's like, dude, I'm in 15th place right now, buddy. I don't want to hear it from you if you're doing all right. Like, he's just always finding those types of deals. But speaking of 15th place, Man U is back in 15th place. We just can't seem to get out of it. But it's the weirdest feeling, I feel like, and even I'm getting this a lot from like a lot of the fan base that I've been seeing around. Like, I feel like it's, even though we lost 1-0, a lot of positive feelings coming out of the game against Arsenal. I thought we dominated Arsenal. I thought we really looked sharp, especially on the wing play with Cunha and Mbeumo. Which is what you really, I think, want to see, especially the first game of the season when you get those new signings in, is to see, can they be the impact that you need them to be when you bring them in? And I thought both those players looked really exciting, really dangerous out on the wings, provided a lot of opportunities for goals, went for goals a lot of times. That was really exciting for me. As we highlighted on our preview of the season episode, that the midfield is just going to be an issue until we can bring in somebody else to help. Casemiro's legs are just getting older. Ugarte is just not the guy, I don't think, and Manu, I think, still needs to develop a little bit more to be the guy who just holds down the center of the park. But the glaring issue, and the one that we've been experiencing for years and years, is still the goalkeeping position. Benayour's got to have that. I understand the whole possible foul, but in this league, in the Premier League, it is so physical off corners or set pieces in the box. If you're going to be a goalie and you're going to have to, you have to be the guy who's going to push everybody out of the way and get more than this little wrist slap on the ball. You have to be strong and commanding in that box. And that's just something I've always kind of had on against him. But there was some excitement. I know Arsenal did not look good at all. There's also a little bit of happiness feeling when Gyökeres looked terrible for Arsenal when we were linked to him for so long. Like, anytime you play somebody you've been linked to, you just like, please don't show out and realize that we made a mistake. It's going to be real interesting. I know Sesko, our other big signing, who we're looking to kind of lead up top, he came in as a sub, more for fitness issues and stuff. But they brought up a good point. Mount has been, through preseason, towards the end of last season, and then into this season, been playing really well for us. The problem for Mount is his natural position, once you assume it'll be Cunha out on the left and Mbeumo out on the right and Sesko up top, is Bruno Fernandes's spot. How do you then, make the decision of, Mount's really hot right now, but Fernandes is our captain and really the reason we weren't relegated last season. So it's going to be a tough position for Amorim, trying to figure out how to utilize those two and get the best out of the team, get the midfield working. I thought the defense looked pretty good. Shut down anything really that Arsenal had going forward, which was exciting. But it's weird coming out of a loss opening day at home, but you still feel positives, and that's something that I think a couple fan pages were trying to let the players know. That's something you can build confidence on, is to have a performance like that against a team that's going to be competing for titles. Still lose, but still have you've got the faith from the fans, and hopefully they can build off of that going into this upcoming weekend. So I felt it. I felt okay with it, I guess we should say.
Yeah, one game does not a season make, but there's a lot of there should be a lot of optimism that United can, be towards the top of the table with performances like this. Now, like you said, Arsenal's not going to be this bad, but the game is the game, and the new signings looked good so far, and some supplemental additions if they can find a midfielder, a defensive-minded midfielder to stick next to Bruno. Having Mount and Bruno playing the same position is a good problem to have, because you're gonna need depth. I think there's definitely reason to be an optimist. Goalkeeper in that sixth spot are the biggest glaring needs for Man U to me. Sesko should do. Yeah, Sesko should do a lot for, to kind of put the cherry on top of that offense. But you gotta as much as I'm not somebody that says go out and sign these top goalkeepers to big money. For example, I think Man City now have kind of agreed to terms with Donnarumma. They have an all-world keeper in Ederson. I just think if you have somebody competent who can play with their feet, I think that's what you need these days. So, Onana's clearly not that guy. So you got to have somebody.
I was thinking about this for the Premier League, and maybe I'm way off on this assessment, but I don't feel like you could – it's not like hockey where I feel like you could win a Stanley Cup with your goalkeeper. But I feel like you could lose in the Premier League a lot of games with a bad goalkeeper. I feel like you don't want to break the bank, go like we did with Onana and all that type of stuff. But I think you got to go get somebody that is, I don't know if Martinez from Villa is the guy. Seems like he's on his way out. I know they're wanting a little bit more than we want to pay, but I think everybody, when it comes to Man U, is going to want a little more than we're wanting to pay. I think that's just they've figured out the playbook on United as far as transfers. Wait them out long enough, they'll panic, and then they'll pay what you actually want. We don't scout enough to be like, okay, that's fine, we'll just go get this person. I feel like so. Hopefully we can pick up some sort of goalkeeper. There's even rumors of De Gea coming back, which honestly I wouldn't be mad at. If we can get a right price at, I thought we never should have let him go. But, that's another story with Ten Hag's brilliant tenure at United. But
hey, Leverkusen had a good game. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Didn't they also lose to the under 15s or something crazy like that? So
that was preseason.
Yeah,
that was fine.
Yeah.
If Martinez goes to United, that'll be my new least favorite team. I hate that chode so much.
honestly, I'd start disliking my team a little bit more as well. I don't like him either. It's one of those frustrating things where you know there's talent there with a player that you're linked to, but you're just sitting there going like, please, anybody but
him.
Like
Anybody
I'd
but
rather
him.
I'd rather Van de Sar dust off the gloves and come back with and just try it than that. But yeah, so optimism going forward. So we'll move into this week's upcoming fixtures. Looks like we got a couple pretty spicy ones on the docket, but it's all starting out with Friday. Chelsea is going to be taking on West Ham. It'll be a 2 o'clock kickoff time. Let's see. Are you guys at home for that one, or is it West Ham?
No,
like
it's
Ham's at
West
home,
Ham.
which is just a terrible stadium anyway, because I don't like the whole huge separation between the fans and the field and stuff like that. But how are you feeling about this one? I think this is a game where you guys bounce back from. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's prime bounce back spot, but also sort of trap gamey. But West Ham's just so bad. Although, Jared Bowen kind of has Chelsea's number, unfortunately.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's a derby match, man. It's a London derby, so West Ham's going to bring it. And I think Chelsea's got everybody healthy. I saw Tosin Adebayo is probably going to feature. Fofana can give some minutes, so they're healthy and they should be. I mean, second game of the season, but like you just dropped 2 points at home to a team that you should have beat. You can't get far behind. That's the thing. Like if you don't pick up 3 this weekend, you could be at the end of the weekend, Liverpool, City, Arsenal at 6, and you at 2, and 4 points is that's 2 games that you have to win down the stretch. It's not, obviously 4 points is not insurmountable with 36 weeks left to go, but I mean you don't want to dig a hole early on.
No,
so
exactly.
I think they win this one probably 2-0, 3-1, something like that. West Ham just didn't have anything for Sunderland, so that's my thought.
It's going to be an interesting game just because, like you said, it's a London derby. Both teams, I don't feel like can be happy with their first week results, so their fans and their managers and everybody from the top is going to be expecting more. To your point, more so for Chelsea being like, you guys can't get too far behind because you are expected to have a decent season. And then West Ham has to be feeling a little bit embarrassed coming off of the result that they had against Sunderland. A newly promoted team just wiped you. I know you were on the road, and the Stadium Light is such a fantastic atmosphere. But I think both teams are going to look to really turn around this. But I don't think West Ham's got it this year. The last question I have on this game is, at what point do you feel comfortable, texting our buddy Dave Sperry and talking a little trash? Like, are you a wait until the end of the game kind of guy, or are you going to let it fly early?
I'm going to let it fly early because I talk trash when my team's losing sometimes.
Yes, you do.
But realistically speaking, you know how I feel about a 2-0 lead. So it's going to have to be, if they're going to have to go up 3-0 for me to settle in. I guess it's got this weird feeling that this is like a 1-0 Chelsea win, and maybe something late, and again, a lot of possession, like against Palace. I really hate that if that ended up what it was. But West Ham can't. They're not going to try to play open against Chelsea. So, yeah, I think until the final whistle is when I would really open up. But no, I'll talk trash. I'll talk trash right now, Sperry.
Right,
going
good.
down. London is blue.
Good. Let him know it. Next, we'll go to his second favorite team, Spurs, taking on Man City, as we like to call him.
He has
Spursy.
no affiliation with Spurs whatsoever.
No affiliation whatsoever. I love the fact that DH, for the longest time, he would always be like, well, that's Spursy's team, right? And it's like, no, it just happened to be the first game that he decided to talk trash. They lost to Tottenham, so he got coined Spursy from then on out. So, but this is my first of a couple big team battles, we'll say, for this upcoming weekend, as it's Man City taking on Spurs. Spurs look really good this past weekend. Obviously, you got Man City, who's just the juggernaut. It is going to be, I believe, at City, which, the empty had. Who really cares? That's not really any sort of a big home field advantage. But I think this is going to be a close one, but I still am going to go with City coming out with like a 1-goal win, like a 2-1 or something to that effect. I think they're still going to – I think it's going to be one where Tottenham maybe goes up early, and then City, does City where they just stay in the game. Haaland gets another one, and then somebody else contributes.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good call. This is the first – we'll get to see who the real Spurs are on the road against a real team this week. We'll see. We'll see how Thomas Frank's group holds up. If they have the capacity to kind of sit in and absorb some pressure, or and that was kind of what his Bournemouth team, not Bournemouth, I'm sorry, his Brentford team was kind of a quick strike and sit back team and then hit on the counter. So, and we know from the last couple of years that Man City have been really vulnerable to counterattacking teams, but I think it's just too much Man City. I think that Pep's got. I still maintain that there's something fundamentally broken there, but I don't think that Tottenham is the team to expose them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I've been little things from Pep here lately has been like, and I got a real hot take, but since we're on the topic of Pep, I do not rate him as highly as everybody else does because he's never had a team like that isn't bought already. Do you know what I mean? Like he took over the probably the greatest era of Barcelona or greatest team in history of Barcelona, and then he went to Bayern where he's just going to win that league every year no matter what. Now he's at City where he came into the oil money type city where everybody was already bought. Like he's never really, and we saw it a little bit last year where when he dealt with injuries and they struggled. I just have always thought like this whole talk between Klopp, Pep, and Sir Alex has just been. I put between those three. I always put Pep third, just because we've never seen him deal with a team with adversity, and he's always kind of inherited such a fantastic club to take over. So that's where I agree with you on that. There's just something off with Pep here lately and City, and I don't know if it's a disconnect between owners or whatever it is, but I don't think City's going to continue to be the City that we've known in the past. They'll still be dangerous, don't get me wrong, but they were dominating the league for years, and I think that is slowly coming out.
Yeah, Pep's contract's up at the end of 27, and you got to wonder if that fire still burns as bright as it did, the previous 4 or 5 years. So the man could still coach it up. So they'll still be, I think they're still the second or third best team in the Premier League, but they don't have that edge. He doesn't seem like he has that edge, that fire. Yeah. So the team's kind of reflective in that.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe if he really wants to chest out his chops, and now that we have this whole Diego Gigliani connection to Man City, maybe in 2027, because I'm sure we'll still be looking for a coach, he makes his way to a different city and comes here to St. Louis and really test his chops, and then I'll bump him up to a little bit that second position as the greatest manager of all time if he can turn that.
Yeah, around. I guess I would too. If he did that. How would he handle coaching? How would he handle coaching a bunch of like Eastern European like Division 4 players though? Is the real question. Like you give him some guys from like the Norwegian Premier League, can he still play pep ball with those guys?
There's only one way to find out, and I'm actually willing to see if that's the case. But next, we'll make our way to Bournemouth versus Wolves. Both teams dropped their first game. Interesting one because I felt like both teams had a decent start to their games and then just faded out by bigger opponents. But to me, of the teams that I thought maybe looked a little better, I would go with Bournemouth. I believe Bournemouth is at home on this one, so I'm going to almost play MLS betting rules here and give it to the home team. And so I think Bournemouth's going to edge out Wolves. I think it's going to be not the most entertaining game of the weekend, just as far as like high quality football. But I think you got two teams that both really need to think that they got to come out with 3 points because, as you said, just like Chelsea, you can't get too far behind as far as like a title race or Champions League. You also can't get too far behind as far as a relegation battle either. And I think both these teams are going to have that in their mind going into the weekend.
Yep. Yeah, I think Wolves should probably have it a lot more in their mind than Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth are a really underrated team, even though they're perilously thin. But they gave Liverpool absolutely everything they could handle, and just like you said, kind of faded down the stretch. I don't think that they will fade against Wolves, although Wolves showed okay against Man City, but I don't know. Bournemouth looked really dangerous on the counter. Semenyo, the second goal that Semenyo scored when he went on that 75-yard run and just basically ran by every person in a Liverpool shirt, he looked awesome. And that was despite dealing with some racial abuse. And good on Anfield for getting rid of that scumbag too. The scumbag fan that was abusing Semenyo. And
yeah, why the hell is that still going on today?
Yeah,
it's so stupid. Like it's the dumbest thing.
Yeah,
I just don't understand it.
Yeah, but and that's what I appreciate though about like the European crowd. Like they found the dude and they booted him out and he's banned. And I don't think that's something we would do in our country. And it's kind of depressing that we lack the spine. Screw your free speech when it turns into hate speech. So I've got Bournemouth winning this one, probably 2-1, 1-0, something like that. That's what I would think.
Yeah, I don't think either team's going to be high flying as far as the score sheet goes, but I'm with you on that. Next, we'll go to Brentford and Aston Villa. I think both teams came out with draws. No, Villa got the draw. Brentford got the loss. Villa, up against Newcastle, we highlighted that last week as going to be a tough game for them. Lost a few pieces that they really relied on a lot last season, but I think quality outshines as far as in this one goes. I highlighted Brentford as a team that's going to be in a relegation battle this year, really struggling. Lost their coach, lost a lot of their top players. To me, Brentford's going to just really continue to struggle. I know they're at home, but I think Villa's going to outpower them in this one. I think Villa's going to look to bounce back as well and get things kind of kicking off. So I'm gonna lead towards Villa in this one.
Yeah, Brentford, that was rough. That was a rough game. They got the Chris Wood treatment against Forest, but they battled back a little bit. I think again, like we talked about with Chelsea, like not getting too far behind the front of the pack, and like you've alluded to, like Brentford can't get too towards the bottom because it's not like they're going to be able to go out and replace, the guys that they lost in the transfer window. So I expect them to bounce back big. Villa, it's tough. It's tough to tell anything from Villa for that first game other than they really locked it down after that red card and were able to salvage a point. But they're dealing with, a lot of loss of personnel issues. But they do have the class of this game. And I'm with you. I think Villa find a way to get 3 points out of this one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Next, we got a battle of the new boys. Burnley's taking on Sunderland. Burnley, the home team. I think this is going to actually be a real interesting match to have two newly promoted teams play this early on in the season. But Sunderland impressed. Burnley, not so much. And we highlighted Burnley as not going to be a high-scoring team. How are you feeling about this one? Do you think Sunderland keeps that good time rolling away from the Stadium of Light?
So Sunderland have so many young players, and I was listening to Guardian Football Podcast on Monday, and they were talking about how many starters they had that were like under 23 in that first game. That is exciting if you're a Sunderland fan. Even if you think that your team's going to go down, the fact that you have that many players in your top squad that are getting Premier League minutes right now, that's really exciting. And Burnley just they just don't do it for me, man. I had a feeling that Sean Dyche might be taking the helm about 10 games into the season or so and trying to salvage them and keep them up. But yeah, this is a tough call because Burnley want to sit back and Sunderland kind of want to go. So this is two teams that faced off against each other multiple times last year. I don't have the record in front of me of how they did against each other last year. I just want to default to the home team here with leave that this is most likely going to be a draw because a point for both teams is better than no points for them at this point from each other. So that's I'll give the edge to Burnley just due to the home game, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it looks like they've had 2 0-0 draws, and Sunderland won 1-0 So not not exactly.
This
the
is
most,
not a big team battle.
not this is not a big team battle. I have a feeling that since we don't pick draws on this team, I'm going to still give the edge to Sunderland. I think there's just they're my team. I have a feeling that they're just going to be that team that comes out blaze of glory and fades out, as the season carries on. But early on, you kind of, and like you said, that young and dumb and just going forward and running like that. I think I almost want to, especially like in the championship, to me, I always give the edge to those types of teams, like the Leeds of old days, the Bielsa Leeds, the teams that just go for it, even though they leave themselves exposed, rather than the teams that just kind of sit back and kind of hope to prey off of that. And then the last game for Saturday, we've got Arsenal taking on Leeds. I think Arsenal look to kind of get things back together here. And I know Leeds, not super overly impressive against Everton, come out with the win. But, again, off of was it a handball, was it a not a handball, PK. I think Arsenal's just going to, look to really kind of like get things going in this, because like I said, you do take that personally when you are a team that's expected to compete for the title, and everybody's kind of like bummed on you after your first game, even though you come out with a win. Plus they're back at the Emirates. I feel like the Premier League, this is where Leeds kind of get caught up in the overwhelming support of a atmosphere and the juggernaut that is Arsenal at home.
There's a football saying in England that August football is a liar. So how will Arsenal lie to us? How will Arsenal lie to us this year? It's a weekly adjustment challenge for them and for Arteta, and I think they find a way to get it done. I think Leeds are an exciting team, but away from home against the top 8-10 teams in the league, I don't give them much of a chance for the most part. They want to play open, and you're not going to play open against Arsenal because they will absolutely shred you second game of the season or not. So while August football is a liar, I think Arsenal probably find a way to pick up a couple of August wins, and this being one of them for sure.
Right.
The Spurs are a better side than Leeds, and while they are not Spurs. Excuse me. Or was it Spurs? No, it wasn't Spurs the first week. Man U are a better team than Leeds. I apologize, Eric. Man U are a better squad than Leeds, and they gave everything they could to Arsenal and couldn't get 3. So I think this is a fairly easy 3 for Arsenal.
Yep. We'll make our way to Sunday. We've got Crystal Palace taking on Nottingham Forest, two clubs that I think you going from based off of last year, you really considering like European, Europa League type spots. Lost a lot of players, especially now Palace losing Eze. I believe it is at Palace, so they'll have the home field, but tough matchup I think for both squads here. I think if you were probably the writing on the wall would maybe be a draw, but I feel like Palace could be in some array losing Eze now, but where are you feeling? I'm almost leaning more towards Nottingham just based off the first week and Wood being on a roll. I think some sort of like continuation with that, but it'll be an interesting matchup nonetheless. Yeah,
I mean, obviously Palace I got to watch 90 minutes of, and I never did actually watch the Forest game other than highlights, but Palace were solid. Palace were solid on defense, and they're likely not going to lose Gahey before then. And, Eze is obviously a big contributor offensively, but other than the free kick goal that got called back, he really didn't have much of anything to offer at Chelsea. So I think I'm gonna have Palace win this one. I think that home game we're gonna see really what the full Forest club is made of this year. Them getting into Europe, and there's a grudge match here too, because Palace is the team that has the Europa League spot Forest have the Europa League spot that Palace was supposed to have. So I see Palace coming out with some fire, man, and making this one personal, sending a message. They get the 3 points.
Okay. Hey, this is one of those games that it's one that you're almost.
It's a
excited to
coin
watch
flip.
'cause,
Yeah, it's a coin flip. Are we giving it big team battle? I'll give it big team battle.
You give it a big team battle? Oh,
I'll give it big team battle. Why not?
okay. I mean, I won't say no. I think it's going to be an exciting one. A good way to kick off the Sunday. The one that I won't be watching with that one going on at the same time is going to be Everton and Brighton. Everton.
It's very
come out with the
hateful.
loss
That's
to
a very
Leeds.
hateful thing for you to say. Why would you not want to watch that game?
Well, yeah, But so Everton at home. Everton always have a great atmosphere. You got that factor going. I thought Brighton looked really good against Fulham. I thought even though they came out with the draw, I thought Brighton kind of dominated most of the game. Brighton's been super strong in the past couple years as it is. What are you thinking? Are you thinking like Everton gets that home field advantage? They take that handball personally. They come back with a little vengeance. They also know that they need to build off of that. I think it's going to be a good game. I think back and forth. Moyes has kind of gotten Everton somewhat clicking again, but I think Brighton looked a lot better opening weekend than Everton did to me.
Yeah, Brighton are losing in CISO also though this week. I don't know if you saw that, but he's signed with essentially signed with Chelsea, but is going to Stuttgart. Is it Stuttgart for a year? Strasbourg for a year. So he and Caicedo will eventually be paired back up in the midfield, but it will probably be more likely next season. Yeah, it's just Everton suck. That's what it kind of comes down to. Is Everton just kind of suck?
Yeah.
Moyes is a good manager, and he'll have them ready to play. But yeah, I just think that they're just a really bad team.
Yeah.
They kind of showed that the first week. No, I don't know. We can't call. We don't predict draws. So I'll say that this is a Brighton win.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Last game of Sunday. I wish they would quit playing Sunday at 10:30 because what that means is then like the last 30 minutes of the game I have to just listen in my car on the drive over, and that just absolutely drives me nuts. But Fulham taking on my beloved Man U. Like I said earlier, a lot of positives to take against the game with Arsenal. Going on the road against a team that's had our number the past couple years in Fulham at Craven Cottage. I love that place. Just still gives me that almost small club, but with a big club type feel, atmosphere where the fans are right on top of you. I'm hoping strongly that as I highlighted before, they're building off with confidence from last game going into this one. I'm hoping they're not looking as Fulham as a lower opponent because right now everybody to us is a better opponent. We finished 15th last year. There's nobody that we can be looking at as a lower opponent. But I felt like the moves we made in the offseason and the way we played against an Arsenal, even though they were struggling, gives me a lot of promise. And I think where we struggled with Fulham a lot in last year's was just finishing off our chances. I'd be interested to see if Sesko gets the start now, get a little bit more fitness in him, and then go from there. But I think we do bounce back and we get a result here. And I'm almost feeling like I hope we get like a 2-goal response kind of win here. But I have a better feeling after week one about how I think we're going to look, and so I think while it'll be a tough game for us, I think we come out against Fulham.
Yeah, first road game with the new squad. Sesko perhaps getting some minutes. You think he'll get a start? I don't know. I can't see why not if he's been in training for an entire week.
Yeah, and because I think the thing that Mbeumo and Cunha really needed was somebody up top to. While they did so much work on the wings, a lot of times there was nobody in the box, so it was a lot of one
no
versus
target
two,
player.
No target player. And with Højlund already basically being told you got to find somewhere else to play, and then Xerxes still even being farther behind on fitness as far as that goes, I think maybe he does get the start and he tries to incorporate him in, and then maybe it's just an early sub, and then he goes back to the formation he started last week with.
Yeah, I like to, I don't know, games like this, talent-wise, it's Man United, right? At least it should be. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's tough. I think that Fulham got really fortunate for that draw against Brighton. Obviously, a 96-minute goal I thought Brighton were the better team overall. United, the opposite, got unlucky. Better manager. I like Hertzler a lot. I'm sorry, I was looking at that. I like Marco Silva a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
I like Hertzler too for Brighton, but I think Amorim, he's had a lot of time to digest what this team's problems are. Yeah, I think United find a way to get this one. I think this is a different team. It's the away factor. If this was a home game, this is Old Trafford, this is United easy. I would be with you. I would say, okay, maybe a 2-goal win. Being on the road with a revamped team and a new message for a revamped team, I think it's a little bit more of a struggle, but I think United win this one.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough game. It's unfortunately there aren't any game, and we said that we've got statistically the toughest start for the first 5 games, maybe even 6 games, I think, out of anybody else in the Premier League. And this is one of those games that is still considered a tough game. Like I said, there's no real opponent this year that I'm overly confident in based off of last year because of the way this team just was in such disarray. Hope we got it turned around. And then last game of the weekend, this is my other big team battle of the weekend for many reasons, but Liverpool taking on Newcastle. It's at Newcastle, so one of the greatest atmospheres in English football. A lot of storylines going on with this one as well, with the whole Isak situation going on, which is just absolutely – have you been keeping up with that? It's unreal. Like, he puts out a statement basically saying stuff that we kind of knew about, old owners made promises, and those promises aren't coming due, and that's why he's saying this. The club hitting back and putting out a statement after that saying we're disappointed with this, but we have no intention to sell, and all sorts of stuff. And apparently I saw a rumor that they were actually going to be willing to play negotiations with Liverpool, and then after this they're like, absolutely not anymore. So a lot of storylines going into this one. What are you thinking on? What are you thinking not only on the game, but what are you thinking about the whole Isak situation?
Newcastle need to just shut the hell up and sell him, because it's abdication of duty to the club and to the fans to sit there and let a player, $150 million player, rot on the bench, regardless of your feelings. Like, he doesn't want to play for you. He's not going to play for you. There's nothing you can do about that. Whether he's wrong or you're wrong or whatever, just sell him and let him go to Liverpool and take that money and restock your shelves, because you can't worry about one player and what he's going to do with his career, regardless of how much of a good player he is. I honestly think he's kind of overrated at this point. Like, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's not on the $150 million player level to me. I just don't think that. He's a great player. I just don't think he's on that level. What is that? It's like $250,000 a week or something like that. Like, no.
Oh, at least,
stop. So let's not.
If you're Liverpool off of that first game and you saw the game that Ekitike played, are you thinking, like, I need a $150 million player off of that? Like, do you really feel maybe if you get him a lot less than that, you give it a little bit more of a glance. But if Newcastle's saying our price is stuck at $150 million, and you just saw Ekitike play pretty well, like, does that factor into any sort of discussions still going forward with this? I
think Liverpool have to do what Liverpool need to get it done too. They need to get him into the squad, because before you know it, you're going to be in Champions League, and that's when you're really going to need this depth. So Liverpool just somebody needs to tell him to shut the hell up too, and just do what you got to do so we can get this transfer completed. As far as the game, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say you're right, because it's a good point, because he has had no preseason. So it's not like they're going to buy him and he's just going to go straight in. He's got to get back up to fitness, get integrated into the team. There's a lot of things that have to go on for him still.
Yep. So as far as the game goes, Newcastle, the players on the field at Newcastle have all the motivation in the world to show out. Even with him not in the Liverpool side, like, Newcastle are still a good team, man. They should have picked up 3 points against Villa. Really struggled not having who would have thought, not having a dedicated number 9, because Thomas Gordon just is not. That's not him. He's more of a wing player.
Right.
But Newcastle are gonna give them all they want. I think it's still Liverpool because I don't. Well, with Frimpong out, it's a big difference down the right side with Frimpong out and Gordon being on that side. But I still think that where Liverpool can be exploited, where Semenyo exploited them, was right down the middle. Now, if Gravenberch is back, which I think he's due to be, he's not. He was out for suspension last week. With Gravenberch back, if he's fit enough to start, and it's him and McAllister in the middle together, then that solves a lot of problems down the middle. But I still think it's Liverpool either way.
Yeah, I think you're right. Where in front of the Toon Army, and then everything that's going on, I think it's going to be a tough game for Liverpool, and I think it's going to be a back and forth.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be anything going. I see it almost being like a 1-goal win for Liverpool. It's funny that you say that you think they should get it done as quick. I've seen, if anything, more on the other lines of a lot of people saying, "Hey, we still have him for 3 years. Have him rot." Because then he has to realize that he's got a World Cup year. So they're thinking like eventually he's going to have to play ball because there's no way he could just sit out a season and then expect to just go and play for the World Cup. And then as well, they're saying like he's on for another 3 years. Let's just say they run his contract all the way down. It would never happen. But let's just say they run it all the way down 3 years. Then he's 29 and he's trying to find a club that hasn't played for 3 years. Like it could be a situation where they could really play, hardball and, put him in a tough spot. But I think right now it almost looks more like he's holding the cards, and I think eventually Liverpool or some club will go out and purchase him. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game, but that front three of Liverpool just look too strong right now, and so I'm going to go with Liverpool with like a 1-goal sort of victory. But anything else that you want to touch on before we wrap this one up?
No, it's just it's another exciting weekend, and it's it's another opportunity to watch a lot of good footy. That's all there is to it. Last weekend I was on the road all 3 days of the weekend, so this weekend I'm a little more rooted. So hopefully we'll watch some more starting tomorrow.
Yes. It was just last weekend. It was just one of those like it felt so good having the season start back up. So excited,
Yep.
Like you said, a lot of good games coming this weekend. So we're looking forward to them, and hopefully you are too. And I know we had a couple people reach out, and I really like that as far as them saying now they got to find a team or look into it. And I think you messaged, I believe it was our buddy Eric O'Donnell, where you said something to the effect of nothing better than like, how'd you word it? Nothing better than having a clean slate or something to that effect. Like,
clean slate, man.
Going into these weekend without having your heart broken by a team and just enjoying some great footy, that's the best way to go. So hopefully you guys are all looking forward to this weekend and check out the games. We want to thank you so much for listening. We truly do appreciate it. Make sure you keep up with everything we're doing on all our socials. On Instagram, we're South End Supporters. Our Twitter and our Reddit is _SES_podcast STL. Make sure you're also checking out our Facebook page and our YouTube as well. So for myself, Eric Cole, for the Monday Morning Center back, Dave Wyckoff, you've been listening to South End Supporters, and until next week, come on United.
Up the Blues.